Going on, guys? JD at JD's Custom Buggies. In the middle now of trying to assemble this to see if there's any hiccups along the way or anything that we need to make note of as we're going along. So I got my center gasket in. I went ahead, first thing is I went ahead and scraped the old gaskets off and plopped this down in there and tightened up the bolts. And what I found was as I was rotating the crank, I was getting a high spot and I couldn't figure out why. So I was taking some guesses at it. And after taking a couple of looks or whatnot, we found out where our problem is. So I haven't had this problem with this particular crank on a regular GY6 motor, so I'm just wondering if that there's something to this casting that might be a little different that I just physically don't see comparing it to like this half of a GY6. So at first I thought that there's a high spot on the counterweight on the crank. I thought it might be hitting these. It was so close I just couldn't tell because of the angle I was looking at, and it was dark, and even with the flashlight. So I just figured, okay, let me just sand them down a little bit, which I did. It was still hitting. So then what we found is trying to get it in the light so it reflects, but if you can see right there, a little bit of a scratch right there. So that the high spot of that counterweight is just rubbing on that. And so what we're going to do now is basically sand this down a little bit and plop it back in there and see if that doesn't make a difference. All I'm trying to do is just round it off a little bit, so I just took it and kind of hit a diagonal. That should make it miss. We're about to find out though. I'm going to blow it off and give it a shot. One bolt, two bolt. Now, even before, it would turn free until I put the bolts in tight. So, give this a shot now. Let's see if that helps. Yep, that was all she needed. So, the reason why I'm recording this video of the assembly and everything is in case we need to make any notes or whatnot, video notes wise, so you guys can get an idea if you decide to go ahead and give this a shot and everything's successful, that you'll have an idea of what I'm talking about if you need to make any modifications. Like I said, I don't know why I've installed 3 of these in customers' motors, and I have no idea. Like I said, if the casting for the QMK might be a little different. I mean, it takes the same gaskets, all the bowls are basically the same. I could basically bolt this half up to a GY6 half. So I'm not quite sure, but we'll get the starter clutch and everything, get this half done, and we'll go from there. Alright, so a couple things you're going to have to remember is anytime you buy an aftermarket crank, at least the ones that I've seen, like the stock cranks that I sell already have the Woodruff keys installed into them. So in ordering a stroker crank, you're going to have to remember to order a couple of Woodruff keys. I just installed the ones on this crank. I'm going to try something a little different or new to us. We just started carrying... So we actually have carry a couple different heavy-duty starter clutches. One from Banjing, the other one is from RDR. Good units, I like them. They got good grab, and so far very reliable. And the nice thing about them is they're fairly light. They're actually lighter than stock. So this guy here, nope, I take that back. I grabbed the wrong one. Give me 1 second. Just to kind of show you, this should be, nope, batting 1,000. Hold on. Yeah. Actually, that's not even the one I'm looking for, but just to give you an idea. Stock starter clutch only has 3 sprags. I do not know where I got this one from, but this one actually has more than 3. So this isn't really a good example of what I was trying to show you. But if you look, okay, I would consider this better than stock starter clutch here, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sprags on that. Okay. A normal GY6 starter clutch only has 3. And the Banjing and the RDR, one has 3 and one has 4. I can't remember which. All right. Like I said, I'm using the Banjing, I believe, because it has 4, and it's just light, and I try to keep the whole rotating assembly light, even though that, you know, this is going to spin with your crank. So this guy here, this is new to us, and that's a 20 sprag. So basically how this works is all of these are spring loaded, and even in a stock one, you have 3 spring loaded cylinders. Okay. And as your starter clutch, you have a bearing here, then your starter clutch goes on. And what happens is this will turn one way. Okay. This will turn with the crank all day long. And that's what it does. It has a keyway, fits on a crank, and it spins. And what happens is this sprocket doesn't spin. It just kind of sits in place and it rolls. When this spins is because there's an idler sprocket that's attached that basically mates with your starter. When you turn the starter, that idler sprocket turns this. And when it turns that, if you notice, I can spin it one way and not the other. And that's what starts your motor. That basically starts the crankshaft up and gets everything fired up. So the advantage is now this is a lot, this is weighty compared to like the Banjing or the RDR, but it literally weighs about as heavy as stock. So as far as weight wise, it's not bad. It's nice. It's got a nice machine finish compared to the stock ones. But with 20 sprags there, because these sprags, when they pop out, that's what grabs this ring gear to turn it over. And then what happens when a starter clutch goes bad? Either 2 things happens. Either the key shears on the crankshaft, or usually what happens is, like I said, there's 3 cylinders in here and they're all spring loaded. That's somehow, some way, either the spring breaks or it gets the cylinder popped out sideways, and then what happens is when you turn your starter over, it has nothing to grab to, and it just, you hear like a free spinning sound, and that's when a starter clutch goes bad. So I'm going to try this because it's new to us, and I want to see how it does. So I'm going to try this 20 sprag starter clutch on this motor here. So, and make sure I got the right one in my hand. Yes, I do. All right. So basically, when you drop it in, well, first thing we have to put the oil pump chain and everything on there. So we'll go through that first. I already got the oil pump installed. I'm going to lay the chain right there. I just have to figure out where I put my sprocket. I don't think I have a sprocket, so I'm going to have to find a sprocket for this. Give me one moment. gonna have to get a sprocket. Brand new, look at that. Alright, so what I'll do is I'm gonna put this peg in first, and you just spin it until it drops in. There's a flat spot in there. And then what I try to do is line, if you'll notice, there's a flat spot right there, and the reason why I kind of put it towards the crank is so it helps me guide my sprocket on, which also has a flat spot. So that's how it's kind of made up. It's just the way I do things. I drop my sprocket on the chain. Okay, and that way I can kind of maneuver things. You're wanting to go with the middle gear on the crank. That's for the oil pump chain. Let's see, I dropped it down too low right there. Alright, and then that's almost where I've got. There we go, and you should be able to rotate this just a little bit. But that's kind of why I point that flat spot up there, so when I drop the sprocket down on it, I'm at least close. Then if I need to, I can just adjust the crank. The one thing you do want to be careful of, and it's not really a tragedy, but if you notice, I have the cam gear or the cam chain just hanging on there. She's on the sprocket right now, so whenever you do rotate this sprocket, just keep in mind that you might want to put some tension on the cam chain as you're spinning it, so you don't lose your spot and it don't fall off the sprocket there. It's easy. I mean, it's not very hard. Sometimes it can be a little bit of a pain to, you know, get the sprocket back on the chain, but it is possible. Grab a 10 millimeter and the right gun. And basically, you just kind of kiss it with the impact. Hold the crank when you do it, and that's it. Careful when you pull your gun back up. Sometimes it'll actually grab a hold of the whole deal, and you'll have to take it apart and start over again. All right. Now the only thing that holds the sprocket in really is this little retainer here, this guard. So because I have no bolts with this motor, I'll be fishing around for bolts as I go. I need two short ones. So, 1, 2. And again, this is just preference. I like to do this while it's on its side. So the first half of the motor build, I usually have it sitting on its side like this on a couple of blocks of wood until I'm ready to put the top end in. It's just easier to, everything's, you know, gravity's working with you, everything's facing up. It just makes life easier. So I'm going to grab the crank. I don't really need to because nothing's going to spin. I'm just keeping the motor steady. All right, now from there, we got our starter clutch. Again, when you put the starter clutch on, I got the motor laying on its side, so I got a keyway here. I'm going to line it up with the Woodruff keys. These Woodruff keys are basically lined up anyway, so I can use the top Woodruff key to kind of guide my way down, and she should drop right on. Boom, done. Get myself out of the sprocket. So basically there's a boss in there. That cylinder fits right in there. Your starter comes in from here, turns to one gear, and like I said, it basically, you can see my crankshaft's turning just a little bit, tooth at a time right now. So that's how that works. We're gonna need, let's see if I got a washer and a starter clutch nut. I do in a drawer over here. One, two. Okay. Washer goes on first, always, and then our starter clutch nut. And starter clutch nut is reverse thread. Okay. Now this is going to be something else that you're going to want to grab onto the crankshaft for. If I can find my socket. Let's see. Trying to remember if I No, I brought it in. I've built motors since then. I had it out in the shop. Right here in front of me. Look at that. Where most things are. Okay, so I'm putting my gun in reverse. I'm holding on to the rod. Pulling the rod towards me. So I got a good hold of it. And that's it. So this whole part is done. I've got to grab a cover, slap the cover on, and then we get the stator and the flywheel on. And we can flip it back. Alright, so I went ahead and grabbed a new cover. Installed the seal in there in the middle. The new covers, they won't have the seals. Gasket on. Again, this is standard GY6 stuff from here on out, pretty much. The alarm bolts go to the bottom. Short one there. That's way too long. For some reason, with the kit they gave me a lot of long ones. And then these two are for the stator strap. It's kind of the wrong size too. Let's see. Fortunately for me, I got a ton of them. Okay. All right, so all those bolts are tight. Grab a stator and a flywheel. Alright, so got a stator. I just grabbed a flywheel I had hanging on the wall. It's a used one. So you can see I got a bunch of them over there. So I was trying to find an 8-pole. And one of the guys in the shop asked me, how can you tell? Well, A, it's bigger in diameter, so it wouldn't fit. I'd know right off. And B, if you look at the inside of a 6-pole flywheel, usually the magnets are out showing. 8-poles, they're usually smooth. Not to say that I haven't seen a 6-pole that's been smooth like that. So if you take something metal, if you're not sure, and you put it on there, okay, you just roll it around the inside, you can feel it grab. So if it grabs 8 times, so that grabs there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Back to the beginning. So that's just a way, just in case, to make sure. But I mean, I would know right off because you could barely see it, but the diameter on a 6-pole is just a little different. So one thing to keep in mind, if you have a buggy like a Yerf Dog or Crossfire that's got a Howitz came with 6-pole stators. So if you order an 8-pole stator, you're gonna have to order a flywheel with that. Just a little tip. So when you get all your, when you get your parts, you get them all. You can complete the project. So now if you already have an 8-pole stator in there and you're just replacing it, you can use the same flywheel. I've never seen a flywheel go bad, really. But if you're going from 6 to 8, you're gonna need to order a matching flywheel for your stator. The other thing is that if you're going to an 11-pole stator, there's no 11-pole flywheel. You just use an 8-pole. I found that out like a couple years back. I was ordering stuff to stock the shop up and figured I'd order some 11-pole stators to have them. I was looking pretty flywheel to go with it, and that's when I found that out. So. Find out if these bolts are a little long. I just randomly grabbed. Yep. Yeah. I thought that might be a little long. I got 2 shorter ones. No. Here. Stator strap here. I believe I do. No, you're gonna have to grab one. All right, so when routing the wires, if you notice right here, there's a little blank spot in the cast right there. So I try to make sure that my wire is in there so not to get pinched. So I'm gonna route it so it's right like that. Put my 2 bolts in the strap. Drop them in like that. And pull the gasket down here. Now we have to get our trigger in, and what I do is I just bunch up the wire right here up top for the trigger. I need to grab 2 bolts for that, so I'm gonna let it go. Get my gasket pointed the right way. I want to say, let's see which way is better. Yep. Okay. Find my 2 bolts. Now, my recommendation is not to use an impact on these 2 guys, because I found out the hard way. These are thinner. These are only M5 bolts. They're not M6. And it doesn't really take much to snap them off, which will make you really sad. Good. Hit these bolts by hand because I didn't get to before. All right, flywheel. I just lined it up at the keyway. It should drop right in. Bolt for that flywheel. just going to grab a fan, and I'll be able to flip my motor over while I'm at it. Oh, yeah, I'm going to put some magnetic plugs on it. While it's on its side, I'm going to go ahead and put the plugs on. Now, I never use the screen filters and springs, but what I do use, SSP-G magnetic plugs. They're aluminum, they're pretty, you can get them in a couple different colors. I just randomly picked the black one off the shelf. If it's 18 or 19, it is 19. Oh, I grabbed a 16. Yeah, it's still 19. All right. All right. And then for the other side, that side's already got a plug in it, but I'm going to change it. And I'm going to put an SSP-G magnetic plug on that side. It's nice just to have magnetic plugs in there. If something's coming apart, it'll get it, but no matter what, as you're running motors, you're going to find that, motor's wearing, you're always going to find some sort of metal residue in the motor. There's no stopping that. So by putting a magnetic plug, at least when it's passing by, you're trapping some of that. So when you change your oil, at least, you can wipe these off, but it's not flowing with the whole, it's not getting circulated around with the rest of the oil hitting all the parts. So it kind of keeps that stuff in place. And I feel by having a magnetic plug on both sides, it probably does better than the screen filter would do. The other reason why I don't like the screen filter is the annoying spring and all that stuff, and it's a pain in the butt. But it's a screen, so if you have that much particles floating around in your oil and it clogs the screen, eventually it's going to cut down your oil circulation. Whereas this will just keep whatever residue in place and not affect the circulation of the oil. I'm going to put one of these fans on it. I like these fans. I just like how they're low profile and whatnot. They do great. I got these on my race motor, and as far as cooling goes, never had an issue. Motor runs tip top, so it's just a preference. Plus, I find that like the non-emission shroud kits, the fan shroud's not quite as large as like the new emission kits. And what I mean by emission is, so there's like a PCV valve deal here. You can see it in the casting. Some, normal, non-emissions heads don't have that. They're just rounded right there, but they have this part that sticks out. So there's a lot of performance heads that, even though they're not an emission head, they use the casting. They're just blocked off. Like you can see, there's no holes or anything, no bolt holes for anything to be hooked up to it. So the shroud kits that I've been using are the ones for the non-emissions. Well, the fan shroud's a little smaller, so they tend to rub on like a stock fan, whereas these no problem with the fitment. So. Wonder if my used flywheel has an issue with the threads on this one. No, there she goes. Okay. All right. Did my chain fall back off? Yes, it did. Okay. We're going to pop it back on without tilting the motor. Yep. So now I'm just rolling it over by hand. I do this with all motors as I get to this point, because if there's an issue, I want to know it here. It feels perfect. So other than the grinding of the little case behind the oil pump there, I'm really happy. This is going good. So, all right, at this point, just got to do a top end. Put a starter on it. We'll go from there. Alright guys, so reviewing video this morning when we were making a video for this last night, realized that we had lost a bunch of footage. I guess the camera had overheated, died, whatever. I think the battery might have died, but whatever we were in the middle of taking a video of at that point, apparently we lost it. So what we missed was me putting the top end on, which kind of stinks because it's kind of vital. So I'm just going to explain a few things, and then we're just going to button this up for now, because I need to get started on some other projects. But so absolutely positively 3 base gaskets go on here, just like the dry fit. When I was looking at it, and I just kind of slid the jug on with the piston, I thought maybe I'd get away with 2, but after having to take the cam on and off a couple times to get it right on top dead center, realized that the gaskets did compress, and it was absolutely perfect as far as the height with the piston and the at the top of the jug. So no, I wouldn't want to push it and put 2. 3 is the number of base gaskets to go with. So got the head on. I ended up doing a little bit of port and polish, just to massage the head, make it breathe a little better, because we have our performance cam on here. So a couple of things would have been nice to see on video, just to kind of give a demonstration. So just keep in mind when you're putting this on, as far as the cam chain and getting lined up, I didn't make one on this, but usually when I roll it on top dead center, I'll take a Sharpie and make a mark on the side, make my own timing mark, just so I know I'm on top dead center. But one thing you got to keep in mind is that you will not be able to, when installing the cam, a lot of times it's just easy, put the chain on, because you can tilt this cam a little bit, give yourself a little leverage. You won't be able to do that with this because of the whole assembly being one piece, and it happened to slide onto the studs as one piece. So there's no give that way. So basically what I was doing is getting it on top dead center, lining up my cam marks, and starting the chain here, and then rolling the motor over like a bicycle chain to get it to go all the way around. That's the only way you're gonna kind of be able to do it. She's a little tight, but that's gonna be fine. Like I said, I've had no problems with stroker cranks doing a 3 base gasket thing. So this is really no different in that respect. The chain's only gonna tend to get loose over time. It's not gonna get any tighter. Just to give you, now not everybody's gonna have what we got going on here with performance cam. So with performance cam, you just line the cam up the same way as you would when you buy a performance cam for a regular GY6. On this cam, you have no marks here, you just have the lines. If you look at the back of the cam, top dead center will be where that hump is on the back of the sprocket. And your lobes are down, so that tells me that's top dead center, or at least the way the cam should be at top dead center. And then just line these marks up parallel with your head, the same that you would with your performance cam. So now at this point, it's time to put the time and chain tensioner in there. I don't know if this is common knowledge or not. I've had to answer this question a couple times via phone or messenger. But you're going to want to preload or retract the tensioner before you drop it in. Okay? So you take a small Phillips screwdriver, you take off this cover screw that you're going to see. You stick your screwdriver in there and you retract this. I'm going to turn it and you can see it going up. Okay? And you're going to, whoops, you're going to want to hold that screwdriver. I just dropped one of the bolts on the floor, so let me see if I can reach. Oh, yeah. Okay. You're going to want to hold the screwdriver until you get your bolts tight. Okay, once that's done, you can let go. It didn't move much because, of course, you know, we were talking about how tight that is, but so now we'll roll our motor over real quick, make sure everything's still good and kosher, that there's no, because this is all new to me. And perfect. And then once you're done there, you take your cover screw and cinch it down. Okay, so good to go there. I'm just going to throw some clutching on this. I have the valve cover all cleaned up. We just put some paint on it to make it look pretty. That's going to go on there. I still have to get plastics, put an intake on it. That's going to be for another time. The reason being is that realized that when they sent me the motor, they told me it had no CVT cover on it, and I just pictured it a 150 from the TRAILMASTER 150. The cover being able to fit. It's a completely different cover. The dowel pins are in completely different spaces, and although they probably look similar on the outside, the ball holes don't even line up. So Monday I'm going to call my guy at TRAILMASTER and see about getting a CVT cover for this, and I'll probably order some to put on the site too. Didn't realize they were different, but now that I know, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to stock some. I'm going to put sliders in these. If you buy Dr. Pulley, what's nice about it, because when you're installing sliders, it has to be a certain way, and they give you a little diagram inside the package. Okay, so if you look, you're basically, even has the writing and the patent number on there to show you which way to go up. So in your variator, that's the way it's going to go up, the biggest flat spot. Boom. So I'm putting a Coso variator on here. I'm just putting baseline, mid-money baseline stuff on here right now to test it out. Good stuff. This Coso variator could be found in our one of our kits that we offer, that we piece together ourselves, and these are all takeoffs from previous test motors and whatnot. So we got a Coso variator. Going to take the boss, insert the boss. No kickstart gear. There's the step up that we cut into the crank, and just going to plop that up there for now. Going to use this SSP-G drive face, and then the clutch is basically one of my race takeoffs. It's a Dr. Pulley. We're just going to slide this, maybe. There we go. And I'm going to get a belt. Alright, now you see the belt's a little tight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work this up to the shaft, and I'm going to use that leverage to squeeze the belt and push it down the pulley a little bit, and that way I can get my belt right on. Alright, now you want to make sure that when you cinch down on the dry face, I'm giving the belt a little extra slack. And the reason why I want to make sure my dry face is tight. So I'm giving a little bit of room to help squeeze the belt. Right here. I won't know until I get the cover, but on like a 150 TRAILMASTER, you want to, it comes with two nuts. One is really, looks like that. The other one is real low profile, narrow. You want to put the narrow nut on the back because there's a bearing, support bearing in the CVT cover. I don't know how that's going to come into play yet, so for right now I'm just going to use this nut because that's what I had, and pop that on to hold the clutch on. When I get the cover, I'll be able to tell, and I'll make a note of it when we get to there, if this nut will work or won't work. I know on the TRAILMASTER it wouldn't work, like on TRAILMASTER 150. This is a TRAILMASTER also. All right. So yes, it will work as far as going on a shaft, but there needs to be enough room for this to go into the support bearing in the cover. So even though the belt looks loose right now, as you turn the motor over, this will actually pop back out. It should. So go ahead and spin everything over here. Okay, so I'm going to cover this up until I get a valve cover on it. And what we'll do is I'll just put this on a shelf till we're already getting exhaust built. I get a cover in, and then we'll fire it up for the first time. We'll do it together, and either, we'll have great success together, or you can get my reaction if it don't work. But that's it for now. So I'm gonna leave this as it is. Actually, got to move on to the 150 TRAILMASTER stroker experiment next. Get that customers done because now I have somebody actually waiting for that motor anyway. So that motor's getting all tore down, put back together with a stroker crank or whatnot, and sent to the customer to test out. So that's it for now on this. If you need parts, go to gotbuggies.com. If you like what you see, hit the like button. If you haven't already, subscribed. And again, thank you for everything, guys. Talk to you later. JD's out.